When my wife, Clara, invited me to her company's annual dinner, I was hesitant at first. She worked for a big real estate firm, filled with people who loved showing off their success. I was never one to flaunt my achievements. I ran a successful construction company quietly, preferring to stay away from crowds that judged people by their suits and watches. But Clara insisted, saying, "Just come, it'll be good for us to show up together." I agreed, not knowing that the night would reveal how she truly saw me. We arrived at the Grand Hotel ballroom, lights glittering, laughter echoing across the room. Clara looked stunning in her blue gown, but she seemed more focused on impressing her coworkers than being with me. She introduced me quickly, her smile tight, as if she didn't want to draw too much attention to me. When her boss, Mr. Turner, came over, I extended my hand politely. He nodded but barely looked at me, and Clara didn't even bother to mention what I did for a living. As the evening went on, I noticed Clara was different. She was louder, laughing at every joke her colleagues made, even ones that were at my expense. One of her coworkers, a tall man named Jason, asked, "So, what do you do, man?" Before I could reply, Clara laughed and said, "Oh, he's just in construction. Nothing fancy." The word, just, stung more than I expected. I smiled politely, pretending it didn't bother me, but inside, I was starting to see something I didn't like. When dinner was served, Clara moved to sit closer to her boss. I ended up across the table, surrounded by people I barely knew. They were talking about property values and luxury projects, completely unaware that my company was the one that built several of those very buildings. I listened quietly, realizing that these people lived in a world of appearances, and Clara desperately wanted to belong to it. Then came the moment that changed everything. Mr. Turner started talking about an upcoming project downtown. "We're still waiting for the final construction bid," he said. "I hope the team from Ashton Builders can take it. They're reliable." My ears perked up at the name. Ashton Builders, my company. Clara, trying to show off, leaned toward her boss and said, "Oh, I've heard of them. They're supposed to be really expensive. My husband's company could never compete with that." The table laughed. I didn't. My hands tightened around my glass. I could see the pride in her eyes as she tried to appear superior, even if it meant putting me down. Mr. Turner looked curious and asked, "Wait, what company do you work for, sir?" Before I could speak, Clara answered for me again. "It's small, not worth comparing." That was the last straw. I calmly placed my glass down and smiled. "Actually, Mr. Turner," I said, "I think you might be familiar with my company. Ashton Builders, that's mine." The laughter stopped instantly. Clara's smile froze, her face turning pale. Mr. Turner blinked in surprise. "You're the owner of Ashton Builders?" he asked, suddenly respectful. I nodded. "Yes. We've handled several of your firm's projects over the past 3 years." The entire table went silent. Jason, who had been joking earlier, suddenly sat straighter. Mr. Turner extended his hand across the table, his tone completely changed. "It's an honor, Mr. Ashton. Your company's reputation is impressive." I shook his hand, glancing at Clara, who could barely look at me. Her earlier confidence had vanished. She now looked like she wanted to disappear into her chair. The rest of the dinner went differently. Everyone asked me about my work, about upcoming developments, and Mr. Turner even proposed a potential partnership. Clara sat there quietly, her hands fidgeting, her fake laughter gone. For the first time that night, I felt no need to protect her pride. She had already traded it for approval. After dinner, as we walked to the car, the silence between us was heavy. Clara finally said, "You could have told me you were going to embarrass me like that." I stopped walking and looked at her. "Embarrass you? You called me a nobody in front of everyone, Clara. You did that yourself." She looked down, unable to meet my eyes. I drove home quietly, thinking about the years we had spent together. I had always supported her, encouraged her career, and believed in her dreams. But somewhere along the way, she started valuing status more than respect. I realized that night that love means little when one partner stops seeing the other as equal. The next morning, Mr. Turner called personally, asking to schedule a meeting to discuss future projects. When I hung up, Clara stood by the kitchen door, unsure what to say. I told her, "You don't have to pretend anymore. You wanted to be part of that world. Go ahead. Just remember who helped build it. Weeks later, our marriage felt colder. Clara tried to apologize, but the words felt hollow. She learned the hard way that respect once broken can't be repaired by regret. I didn't humiliate her that night. I simply reminded her, and everyone else, that true worth doesn't need to be announced. It reveals itself when others try to hide it. And as life moved forward, I kept doing what I'd always done, building things that lasted. Including, I hoped, a version of myself that no one could ever call a nobody again.